Good morning, everyone. My topic for today is all about auditing in a computerized environment. In rapid development of technology, today's organization use computerized information system to process, store, and control companies' information. So first, let us define what is computer information system. So, as defined in international standards on auditing, the purpose of international standard in auditing, a CIS environment exists when a computer or any type or size is involved in processing by the entity of financial information of the significance to the audit, whether the computer is operated by the entity or by the third party. So next is we have the characteristics of computerized information system. Lack of visible transaction traits. Certain data may be maintained on computer files only. In manual system, it is normally possible to follow the transaction through the system by examining source documents, book of accounts, records, and reports. In CIS environment, the transaction trails may be partly in machine-readable form and it may exist only for a limited period of time. So next is we have the consistency performance. CIS perform transactions or functions exactly as programmed and potentially more reliable than manual system, provided that all the transaction types and conditions that may occur is anticipated and incorporated in the system. So number 3, we have ease of access to data and computer programs. In CIS environments, data and computer programs may be accessed and altered by unauthorized persons, leaving no visible evidence. So number 4, we have the concentration of duties. Proper segregation of duties is an essential characteristic of a sound internal control system. So number 5, we have the system-generated transactions. Certain transactions may be initiated by the CIS itself without the need for the input document. For instance, they are automatically generated invoices and payments created by a banking or accounting system. So number 6, we have the vulnerability of data and program storage media. In the manual system, the records are written on a substantial paper. In CIS environment, information can easily be changed, leaving no trace of original content. So next, we have the internal control in a CIS environment. So first, we have internal control. So internal control are the mechanisms, rules, and procedures implemented by the company to ensure integrity, promote accountability, and prevent fraud. So we have the two categories of internal control, general control and application control. General control are control policies and procedures that relate to the overall computer information system. Normally, it is evaluated before the application controls. And also, general controls look at the whole pictures. It applies all the aspects of the IT function. So we have the categories of general controls. First is we have the organization controls. So clear assignment of authority and responsibility. So we have the segregation of CIS department and user department, and also the segregation of duties within the CIS department. So we have the illustration. So first we have the CIS director. So si CIS director, siya yung nag-oversee ng functions within the department. So under the CIS director, we have the system development. So under kay system development, we have system analyst. So si system analyst, siya yung nakakaalam ng procedure ni entity. So siya yung nagdi-design ng system. So si programmer, siya yung gumagawa ng program, which is siya yung gumagawa ng program from system analyst. So siya yung nag-debug and also pina-follow niya yung sinasabi ni system analyst. So we have the next is operations. So under kay operations, we have computer operator. So siya yung nagmo-monitor, maintain the computer used in the business. So the data entry operator naman is prepares and verify input data for processing. So we have the other functions, librarian, which maintains custody of system documents and program files, and the control group, which reviews all the input procedures. So the main function of this cannot be interchanged. So kung ano ang function na na-design sa'yo, yun lang talaga yung function na or duties na dapat mo i-execute. So next is we have system development and documentation controls. To facilitate use of program as well as change that may introduce to system. So this one is that any development na nangyayari sa system should be approved by the proper level of management. So hindi ka pwede mag-change ng system mo without the approval ng management. So next is access control. Adequate security controls such as use of password. So it is, as you can see, some of the computer programs, merong mga password talaga. It is being used to limit the access of the system to other or unauthorized employees. So data recovery controls. So provide maintenance of backup files. So this one is they are imposing it just in case may mga biglang makorrupt yung files mo. So it is very essential for the entity to have backup files. So next is monitoring controls to ensure that CIS controls are working effectively as planned. Next is we have the application controls, policies and procedures that relate to the specific use of the system. So we have the input, process, and output. So first is we have the control over input. It is designed to provide reasonable assurance that the data submitted for processing are complete, properly authorized, and accurately translated into machine-readable form. So we have the example is the key verification, which provide assurance that there are no key entry errors committed. Example of this is when you are entering a telephone number or cell phone number, which is kung si user nag-enter siya ng letters may mag-pop up na warning that you have entered a wrong telephone number. So next is we have the field check. Ensures input data agree with the required field format. So example of this is yung example kanina, which is the telephone number. Let's say for example, ang given the number is a 10-digit lang, which is normally here in the Philippines, we have 10-digit number of cellphone number. So once na ang i-enter mo is 8 numbers lang, or 9-digit number lang, so may mag-pop up na warning na mali yung i-enter mo na cellphone number. So next is the validity check. Determine the authenticity of input. Example of this is the employee's master file may contain two valid codes to indicate the employee's gender. So let's say for example, one is the male and two is female. So if you entered number 3, so may mag-pop up na warning, which is you have entered a wrong number, which is only 1 and 2 only. So number 4, we have the self-checking digit. It is a mathematical calculated digit, which is usually added to a documentation number to detect common transpositional errors in data submitted for processing. So we have the limit check. So limit check is a reasonable check to decide to ensure that data submitted for processing do not exceed the predetermined or reasonable amount. An example of this is when you are entering a password. So let's say, for example, you have entered a wrong password 3 times consecutively. So yung account mo, i-block niya to which is na-reach mo na yung limit, which is 3 lang siya. So after yung 3 consecutive wrong inputs, automatically yung account mo i-block niya na. So we have the control total. Ensure the completeness of data before and after they are processed. So we have the financial totals, which is the sum total of peso amount. And next is we have the hash total, which is the sum total of the control numbers in the document, and the record count, which is the total number of documents. So we have the illustration. So if your file of transaction contains the following amount. So we have here 4 documents lang. So sa record count, ika-count niya kung ilang document lang ang i-enter mo, which is 4. So sa hash total is i-compute niya ang total ng input data mo, which is yung etong number dito, which is the 70 million, 30 million, 450,050, and the 100,000. So next is we have the control over processing, which provides reasonable assurance that input data are processed accurately and is not lost, added, excluded, duplicated, or improperly changed. So we have number 3, control over output, provides reasonable assurance that results of processing are complete, accurate, and these output are distributed only to the authorized personnel. So next is we have the test of control in CIS environment. Test of control in CIS environment is the same in manual environment, which involves the evaluation of or evaluating the entity's internal control, which is the policies and procedures, if they are working properly as intended. So we have testing the reliability of general control includes observing clients' personnel in performing their duties, inspecting program documentations, observing security measures enforced. So in testing application controls, the auditor may either audit around the computer or use computer-assisted audit techniques or CAATs. In audit around the computer, it involves examination of documentation and reports to determine the reliability of the system. It focuses on the output document and it focuses in the input and output of the system. So here we have the illustration. So si auditor, ang main focus niya lang is the input, which is the source document, and the output, which is the financial report. So ang process, it is disregarded. So as long as na in test, as long as na yung input reconciles with the output, meaning to say the computer program process is accurate. So, audit around the computer can be used only if there are visible input documents and detailed output that will enable the auditor to trace individual transaction back and forth, which is also known as black box approach. Next is we have the computer assisted audit techniques or CAATs, which are the computer programs and data which the auditor uses as part of the audit procedures to process data of audit significant contained in the entity's information system. So, CAAT used when computer accounting system perform tasks which no visible evidence is available. So, here, ang focus naman ng CAATs is ang input and processing. It is also known as white box approach. So, commonly used CAATs, we have test data, integrated test facility, and parallel simulation. So, in test data, it is designed to test the effectiveness of internal control procedures which are incorporated in the client's computer program. So, we have the illustration. So, the auditor prepare test transaction and result. So, dito siya, gumagawa siya dito ng transaction niya. And then, at the same time, yung manual process yung ginagawa niya. So, then, yung prepare niya transaction is entered in the system ng clients. So, it is being processed. And then, i-compare niya yung manual process and the computer output if they reconcile each other. So, if they have the same output, so meaning to say, yung computer ng or system ng client is accurate siya. So, next we have the integrated test facility. So, the auditor creates dummy or fictitious employee and other appropriate unit to test within the entity's computer system. So, illustration. So, ang first step is a dummy PIF center is created for the auditor. So, next is the auditor create transaction for control they want to test. So, specific transaction lang ang iti-test ni auditor. And then, ipapasok niya, he will enter sa dummy center. And then, it is being processed by the computer system. And then, the working paper are created to show the expected results from manually processed information. And then the auditor transactions are run with actual transaction. Then, i-compare nila if yung result nag-report without TIF data and the report containing TIF informations, which is the dummy, kung parehas lang sila ng result. So, if ever that it reconciles, then it is the system process accurately. If not, so it goes with deeper um, yung magiging mas madaming process pa yung gagawin ni auditor if ever na it will not conforms with the fictitious or the dummy data, hindi sila nag-reconcile. So next is we have the parallel simulation. So we have the illustration. So here, si auditor is gumagamit siya ng kanyang sariling program. And then, i-compare niya sa program ni entity. So magkakaroon sila ng actual transaction. So yung actual transaction is entered sa system ni entity, at the same time, entered din siya sa system ni auditor. And then the output will be compared if they reconcile to each other. If they reconciles, meaning the system works properly. So we have the other cards, we have the snapshots, which is taking a picture of the transaction as it flows through the computer system, and the system control audit review files, which is embedding audit software modules within the application system to provide continuous monitoring of the system transactions. So that's it. Thank you so much.